Extra boosters got taken over by clan boosters and technical boosters, and now come the character boosters. Hello and welcome everyone to the set breakdown of the very first character booster, which is TRY3 NEXT, which contains cards for the Gear Chronicle, Neo Nectar, and Royal Paladin clans, which are each represented by the TRY3 members. Before we get into it, let's go over some of the box toppers that the set comes with. So I'm just going to pop up a list here. So we have Upstream Dragon, Blasterblade Spirit, Knight of Reform Pier, Lily of the Valley Musketeer Kaivant, Glimmer Breath Dragon, Steam Skara Gigi, Hopekeeper, Ideal Maiden Thuria, and Cherry Blossom Blizzard Maiden Lilga. Apart from that, there are quite a few reprints in this set, and now the special reprints do have the triple rare foiling, so we will be going over those as we go over the clans. And as always, I'm going to take it in the order of my own preference, and we're going to go from my least preferred to most preferred, so we're going to be starting off with Gear Chronicle. First card of which is the GR and SGR, which is Interdimensional Dragon, Crossover Dragon. So here you see both his GR and SGR artworks, and this time the SGRs are really pretty and they did the text super well, so I hope this is gonna stay as a pattern for the rest of the upcoming sets. But his skill is an Act GB3. You can count him as 2 if your heart is a Chronojet. If you do, then you search your deck for 2 cards with Chronojet in their different card names, call them to separate rearguard circles, shuffle your deck, and until end of turn, they get the skill. When their attack hits a Vanguard, you can choose another one of your rearguards with Chronojet in its name and put this unit and the chosen unit into your soul. If you do, you stand all of your Vanguards. So essentially, it's just Blouse being splashed into Gear Chronicle, so you know, the whole kind of theme of Gears is taking, you know, mechanics from other decks and making them their own, so this is Crossover taking the mechanic of Blouse. So, you know, overall the card is alright. I've seen some use of it recently, but it's a bit too, like, the G-Zone of Time Leap is a bit too restrictive to include this, and it's just a bit counter, like, it can help, but it's gonna be better for the actual, you know, the Zodiac Time Beast deck more than it is helpful for just pure Time Leap. Next is Pulsar Shift Bullet Dragon. He has a GB2 skill. At the end of your turn, you can count +1 and retire him. If you do, you search your deck for up to 2 cards with Chronojet in their different card names, reveal them, choose a card from among them called to rearguard circle, and put the rest into your hand and shuffle your deck. That way, at the end of turn, you get a call, so you won't be able to use, Interdimensional Dragon, Crossover Dragon just yet, but you do get a Stride Fighter in your hand, and you get basically a rearguard for later. His other skill is when your Vanguard with Chronojet in its name attacks, this unit gets +2k until end of turn. So, you know, just attack with Vanguard first and he'll be an 11k attacker. Overall, the card is okay. It does give you, you know, it's compared to some other Gear Chronicle cards that might be not super ultra amazing, but it's actually alright, and I think it's fine for the triple rare slot as well. Next, we have the very cute G-Guardian in Highbrow Steam Arlim. Her skill is, when you guard with her, you can choose 2 cards in total from your hand and drop zone with Chronojet in their different card names, reveal them, and put them on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you do, this unit gets +15k shield until end of that battle. So it's basically to recycle your Chronojets, and you know, you can do it either from hand or from drop zone, but most of the time you'll be doing it from drop zone. Moving along to the other double rares of Gear Chronicle, we have this really cool art, Throttle Caliber Dragon. I actually really like his art, so this is basically part of the ride chain for Gear Chronicle, and they didn't have one before, but I really like his art. It's like a cool biker steampunk dragon thing, so his skills are sadly not that good to make him viable, but let's go over him anyway. Skill is, on Vanguard Circle, when his attack hits a Vanguard, you search your deck for up to 1 card with Chronojet in its name, write it as Rest and shuffle your deck. And his other skill on Rearguard Circle is when this unit attack hits a Vanguard, if you have a Grey Exhaust Dragon on your Vanguard Circle or in your soul, you may return this unit to your hand. So overall, I think he's like, art-wise he gets a 10, but skill-wise sadly he's quite bad, but I think it could make a pretty fun deck, so please do go ahead and try him out, but I wouldn't expect too many great competitive results from him. Art-wise though, I have to say he's amazing. Next, we have Linear Feed Dragon as the next double rare. So when he attacks the Vanguard, if you have a Grey Exhaust Dragon on your Vanguard Circle or in your soul, this unit gets +2k until the end of that battle, so it's an 11k attacker for the ride chain. And his other skills, an act once per turn. you can choose 2 cards with Chrono Jet in their card names from your hand and reveal them and return them to your deck. If you do, you shuffle your deck and draw 2 cards. So essentially, if you've drawn into too many and you have Stride Fighters and everything in your hand, you can basically put them back so you can still search them out with your new Stride, and then you get to draw 2 cards as well, so you're not actually losing anything. So overall, I think this card is actually fine. I know a lot of people look at the new cards and they're like, oh, this doesn't help Time Leap, so it's bad. I think when you look, you shouldn't look at it just, you know, in terms of, oh, this doesn't help Time Leap, so it's bad. Bushiroad is trying to make other Gear Chronicle decks, and I really encourage them to do that, so I think this is a pretty nice card. However, the next nice card is Steam Tamer Arca, and she's definitely very good. So, skill is... First, for once we're going to go over the condition for Perfect Guarding. So, when you guard with it, you choose 1 unit that's being attacked, so as always, and you have to discard a Zodiac Time Beast. So not just any card that you discard for the Perfect Guard, but it has to be a Zodiac Time Beast, so that is very important. But its other skill is from Drop Zone Act GB2, you choose another Steam Tamer Arca and a Zodiac Time Beast trigger unit from your drop zone and bind them face up. If you do, you return this unit, well, this card to your hand. So it's a returning Perfect Guard, and you know, definitely a very nice one, and Zodiac Time Beast decks are really liking this one too. Overall, like most, you know, Gear Chronicle decks are liking it because they start, you know, playing Zodiac Time Beast triggers and stuff. So yeah, overall this is a very good Perfect Guard, and overall I think a lot of Gear Chronicle players are quite happy with it. Next up we have Steam Maiden Ushriel. So her skill is when you ride her or call her, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, choose one of your other grade 2 or greater rear guards, and until end of turn it gets the Time Leap ability, so when the attack hits a Vanguard, you Kamas 1. If you do, you Time Leap this unit. Kinda sad that it has to hit, but well, you know, it's alright. And then the other part of the skill is you may give the card chosen by this effect grade -2 until end of turn. So if you choose, because you can only choose grade 2 or greater, so it's either going to become a grade 0 or a grade 1. So, you know, that's just good for your Time Leap shenanigans. Next we have the aforementioned Grey Exhaust Dragon, so this is the grade 2 of the right chain. When this unit is ridden, you choose a Smart Fender Dragon from your soul and you may call it to Rearguard Circle as rest. So Smart Fender Dragon is the grade 1 of the right chain if I'm not mistaken. So essentially you just get another unit, so it's actually, like, this part of the right chain is quite nice. And then his other skill is a Time Leap when you write it or call it from hand, so that's important, from hand. You can Kamas 1, if you do, you choose one of your other grade 2 rearguards and Time Leap it. So a bit sad that it's just grade 2 rearguards, it doesn't give you any other leeway, but you know, it's alright, it gets you grade 3 out, so you can actually combo it with the grade 3, because his skill is a Rearguard Circle and it checks if the Grey Exhaust Dragon is on Vanguard Circle or in Soul, so essentially you can use it while it's on Vanguard Circle on that turn. So overall this grade 2 is actually pretty damn nice. Next is Steam Fighter Galumu, and I'm pretty sure this is a reprint, so when attack hits a Vanguard on GB1 you can Soul Blast 1 to draw a card, but I believe this was a promo before, so it is now reprinted. Next we have Pulsar Farm Peacock. His skill is when you call him from deck due to a Time Leap ability until end of turn, you may have this unit get the continuous ability. This unit cannot be put into your deck by card effects, so it cannot be, you know, spun by the opponent Gear Chronicle stuff, but you can also not Time Leap it or anything yourself, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword, but you know, if you think about it properly, it will be fine overall, I guess. Next we have Time Break Dragon. He has a Time Leap skill, GB1, when you call it from hand, you choose up to one of your other rearguards and Time Leap it. So overall I quite like him. He does have to be called from hand, but I think he's a pretty nice grade 1 and I really like his art as well, so I think he's actually quite alright. Next we have Steam Rider Sharum. Her ability is a GB1 when you call her due to the effect of a card, so it can be anything really, as long as it's an effect. You may have her get -2k power until end of turn. If you do, she gets boost until end of turn, so she's a 7k booster but only for one turn. Next we have Steam Fighter Nagish. He has a Vanguard and Rearguard skill. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, for each Rearguard you have more than your opponent, he gets +2k until end of turn. So if you have, like, you know, it's the usual thing. If you have 2 more, he gets +4. If you have 3 more, he gets +6, etc. The only downside is, well, the main downside is that it's 8k power, so sadly, you know, it's not going to be looking too good defensively, but you know, I can see his uses as well, because he does kind of build up power, but it's only going to be useful against decks that don't fill up field, and there's quite a few of those in the current, you know, format, so that's not going to be too great. Next, we have Rough Play Outrageous Gear Bear. So this art is also quite interesting. Like I'm liking how Gear Chronicle's kind of fleshing out their art style. So his skill is a GB1 when he's called on rearguard circle, so from anywhere. Until end of turn he gets the skill. At the end of each turn you can put him on the bottom of your deck. If you do, you choose one of your opponent's grade 1 or greater rearguards and your opponent puts the unit on the bottom of their deck. So it's pretty alright. I mean, he goes back and so does your opponent, so like a 1-for-1 trade. The only downside, again, is that he's 8k power. If he was 9k, he could actually be pretty usable, but, you know, it's a bit unfortunate. Next up, we have Steam Soldier Undalulu. He has a GB1 skill. When he's called from anywhere, you can count as 1. If you do, you choose up to 2 cards from your bind zone, return them to your deck, and shuffle your deck. If you return 2 cards, draw a card, and soul charge 1. I really actually like this card because, you know, in Time Leap decks you do get cards lost in time when you do, well, essentially there are combos that get cards lost in time, and so this card essentially can actually just take out those cards that are lost in time. Obviously this is meant to be used with just Zodiac Time Beast decks, but I think it's actually pretty cool. And you know, in like pretty much all Gear Chronicle decks now use the bind zone, so this is pretty nice. I actually quite like this card. So it's especially like if you top deck bind some triggers, you can just put them back, and then, you know, you're still gonna bind some more, but hopefully there won't be triggers that next time. But like this card I kind of like I kind of glossed over when I first saw it, but now it's actually quite interesting. Next we have Smart Fender Dragon. So this is the grade 1 of the right chain, and they seem to be all riding bikes. So his first skill is if you have a Chic Folk Draco Kid in your soul, he gets plus 3k, and if you have a Chic Folk Draco Kid in your soul, when he's on rearguard circle, he gets plus 1k and grade plus 1. So he's basically like, he stays effective even after you've done your right chain stuff, so quite a nice and interesting card. And you know, it's the first time that we have a right chain card gain 3k instead of just going up to 8k, so pretty interesting, and I think the right chain is quite interesting for Gears. And then the grade 0 of the right chain is the Chic Folk Draco Kid, and his first skill is when a Smart Fender Dragon rides this unit, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, search for up to 1 Grey Exhaust Dragon or Throttle Caliber Dragon from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck, so usual right chain stuff. And his other skill is when a unit not named Smart Fender Dragon rides this unit, you may call this card to rearguard circle, so again, usual right chain stuff. You know, it's weird because I say like usual right chain stuff, but there's a lot of players that started after right chains became obsolete. But you know, there was a time when right chains were some of the main decks, and you know, I still remember those days, but it has been a while. Next, some reprints. We have Vainglory Dream Gear Cat, so pretty important stand trigger. If you don't know already, he has a once per turn GB1 skill. When your opponent's rearguard is put into their deck to an effect of one of your cards, choose one of your other units and you may have it gain plus 10k until end of turn. If you do, return this card to your deck and shuffle your deck. So this card can be activated on both yours and your opponent's turns, so make sure you keep that in mind. Next we have a reprint of Steam Breath Dragon, so this is just the Stride Fodder, but I really like this art as well, and the cool triple rare foiling definitely makes it nicer. Next we have a reprint of the G Perfect art for Gear Chronicle, so Steam made in Arlim, and I also like this art more than the old one. And finally we have a reprint of Hard Thump Worker, so he went from being a double rare to a triple rare foil, and he's just the Chronojet crit, but also a very important card. And that's the end of the Gear Chronicle cards. Next up we have the Royal Paladin support, and this time around we did have a trial deck as well, released just before the set came out, so we're going to go over some of the notable new cards of the trial deck. So first of which is the new stride, which is Divine Knight of Lore Selfes, so he's, instead of a sword, he should have a phone in his hand. But regardless, his skill is when he attacks, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, choose any number of cards from your hand, bind them face down, choose one of your rearguards, and he gets plus 5k until end of turn. At the end of that turn, put the cards bound with this effect into your hand. This card's like, I see its use because essentially when you have a big hand, you can just use him, bind everything, and your Braves are all online, and then you just get the cards back. So it's a pretty nice stride, but it's just that, you know, you probably won't be using him because it's a bit too slow for how fast the Brave deck wants to be, but it is a nice idea, and if the Brave deck ever slows down, he will become useful as well. Next is Flying Swallow Knight Klaus. He has 2 skills, first of which is when he's called on rearguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Altmile in its name, choose one of your other units, and until end of turn, that unit and this unit get plus 2k. So makes himself and something else a possible 11k attacker, and that possible part being on the other card, because that depends on what you choose. Other skill is a Brave on rearguard circle. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, you can return him to your hand. So basically, if you do return it to your hand, you can just use his effect every turn, more or less, so overall, pretty alright card. Next is Knight of Honesty Carausius, and he has a GB1 and rearguard circle. When he attacks, you can counterblast 2. If you do, you search your deck for up to 1 grade 2 card, call it to rearguard circle, shuffle your deck, and if that unit has a Brave ability, that unit gets +3k until end of turn. Counterblast 2 is a bit overkill. I think it would have been better if you call something and then let you draw a card as well. Then the counterblast cost balances out, but right now it's just a worse Knight of Twin Sword. So, like, overall this card is pretty bad, but I just kind of wanted to point out how it could have been basically improved. Next card is Knight of Respect Diotius. When an attack hits a Vanguard during the battle, if this unit boosted a unit with a Brave ability, you can counterblast 1 and retire him. If you do, you search your deck for up to 1 card with a Brave ability, call it to rearguard circle, and shuffle your deck. So it's alright because it opens up this, like, it does the calling, but it also opens up a slot. So I do like that because, you know, like, I just like that it opens up that little slot there, so if you get another call, you can call over whatever is in front of him to get a fresh new attack with a booster. So it needs to hit, but it's a pretty interesting card. Now, the actual best card of the trial deck is Support Sorcerer of Damascus. So, GB1 Brave, at the end of your turn, you can retire her. If you do, draw a card and countercharge 2. Super, super, super good card. Like, the deck does blast through counterblast super fast, and this is really, really helpful to the Altmile deck. So, by far one of the best cards in this trial deck. There's only one other card that can rival it. The almost final card is Knight of Tomahawk. In deck, she gets grade +1, so basically she's searchable with all of your search for grade 2 abilities. Another skill is when you call her on GB1, she gets +2k. So cute art, you know, you could actually use her, but her use is kind of dying down a little bit. And then the other card that kind of fights for the spot of most useful card of the trial deck is Knight of Disciple Alectos. So he does have the Forerunner ability, and he has a GB1 on rearguard circle. At the beginning of each battle phase, so both yours and your opponent's, you can counterblast 1 and put him into the soul. If you do, you draw a card, and the Brave abilities of your cards are active until end of turn. So this is good because you can do it on your turn, even if you have a big hand. You can do it on your opponent's turn, even if you have a big hand, which you hopefully do. So it's a very, very useful card, but don't overestimate its use, as I said in my previous deck preview video for the Altmile deck. Next up is his, well, second ability, which is an Act Brave. You rest him, you could choose one of your units, and he gets +3k until end of turn. So you can rest him, give something 3k, and then use his first skill to put him into the soul. That way you don't lose out on the 3k. Final card is Gliding Eagle. It's basically just, well, a new draw trigger with the same ability as the previous draw trigger. So you put him into your soul, choose one of your units, and until end of turn he gets +3k. So it's just like, you won't be really using it, but some royal decks will. But overall, it's just, you know, it's a good draw trigger, and that's about it. And now let's get into the cards of the actual set. We're going to be starting off with the GR and SGR, which is Holy Dragon, Brave Lancer Dragon. Very good stride. So his skill is a GB3. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1. If you do, you search your deck for up to 3 cards with the Brave ability, call them to separate rearguard circles, shuffle your deck, and for each unit called, choose a card from your hand and discard it. So the ideal play is to have no cards in hand at the time of activation, because then you don't have to discard anything else on top when you use his ability. So either no cards in hand or like 1, maximum 2, but you don't want to be losing 3 because of this. So you're kind of trying to maximize it as much as possible, but it's definitely a very good stride and a very good finisher as well. Other skill is a Brave. When your unit attacks, that unit gets +3k until end of that battle. Very good skill as well, because this just gives 3k to anything that battles. So very, very good card, and just overall super good stride. So I'm very happy with this card for the Brave deck. Next, we have the brand new Alfred, which is Luminous Light King of Knights Alfred Oath. His skill is a continuous GB2. During your turn, this unit gets +2k for each of your rearguards. So in traditional Alfred fashion, he just buffs himself up by 2 for each of your rearguards. So it's, you know, very usual for any Alfred card. His other skill is, it could be worded a bit differently and it would be much better than it is, but let's go over it anyway. So when you ride him, if you have a Swordsman of Light or Blaster in his card name in your soul, you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and discard a card from your hand. If you do, you search your deck for up to 2 cards of different grades with Swordsman of Light or Blaster in their card names, call them to separate rearguard circles, and shuffle your deck. The way to make this better is if that skill was when you stride into, or, you know, I think it would have been better because now it's like you write it and that's it, it's done. And you know, it's quite restrictive too, but overall, like, it could have been much better. I really like the art as well, so I wish it was better. but sadly Alfred kind of took a hit here and he's not as great as he could have been. But you know, he did get some support in the set in some other cards, so we'll go over it, but overall I wish this card was a bit better, because you know, it is the King of Knights. Next we have pretty much the best triple rare for Royal Paladin in this set, which is Knight of Heavenly Decree Altmile. So, I did do a deck feature of the new Altmile deck quite recently, so feel free to check that out, because I think the deck is very strong now, and it's definitely worth taking a look at, and it's definitely it's kind of like a sleeper hit. But let's go over this card regardless, so you can kind of see why. Like, it's not just this card, but this card does help, making it much stronger. So, his skill is GB2 Brave. When he attacks, choose up to 5 of your rear guards and they get +4K until end of turn. This is kind of like a last struggle kind of ability, like you won't be using it much because you're always striding, but still very, very nice. Next skill is, at the beginning of your right phase, choose up to 1 card from your hand, call it to rear guard circle, and that unit gets +4K until end of turn. So with this one, you choose any card in your hand and give that specific unit +4K, so it's no real restrictions apart from giving the power to that specific unit. However, his on-strike skill is, choose up to 1 card from your hand, call it to rear guard circle, and choose one of your units with the Brave ability, and it gets +4K until the end of that turn. So this time you can call anything, and you know, then you choose anything on your field with Brave and give it +4K, so that's pretty much it. It's a very good card, but let's go over some of the new cards that support this deck, which make it very strong. First one of which is Knight of Encouragement Albion. So his skill is a GB1. When it attacks a Vanguard, you can count +1, soul +1. If you do, you search your deck for up to 1 card with the Brave ability, call it to rear guard circle, and shuffle your deck. Until end of turn, that unit gets the Brave skill. When its attack hits a Vanguard, you may return this unit to your hand. Super good card. Don't forget that it doesn't have Brave itself, so you can't give it the +4K from the new Altmile, from the on-strike skill, but overall the card is very good because it allows for a lot of multi-attack memes. From, you can basically do Slayman into this into Slayman, and so on, as long as you have the available counterblast for it. But overall this card is super good and very, very strong, so it's definitely worth the triple rare slot. Next we have a piece of Alfred support in Holy Dragon, legit Sword Dragon. I'm pretty happy to see that the name wasn't changed in English. It has an act once per turn, count +1. If your heart is a Alfred or Blaster in its name, search your deck for up to 1 grade 2 or less card with Swordsman of Light or Blaster in its card name, call it to rear guard circle, shuffle your deck, and that unit gets +2K until end of turn. Overall, it's not a very good card, but it's a pretty nice card. Like, it's meant to be Alfred support, but it also supports Blasters, so that, you know, that's kind of not just Alfred support. But I think this card is pretty nice. It does help the Alfred deck do more stuff after it has ridden, so pretty interesting stride. Next, very nice G-Guard in Divine Knight of Godly Defense Igraine. Like, her art is just incredible. So she has 2 skills for once. She has a GB1 Brave. This unit gets +5K shield, so you have to have 3 or less cards in hand for that one. And her next skill is, when you guard with her, if you Vanguard an Altmile, you can soul blast 1. If you do, she gets +10K until the end of that battle. So 25K G-Guard normally, and goes up to 30 if you do have the Brave condition on GB1. Next up we have Knight of Ambuscade Redon, another really good card for the Altmile deck. So first skill is a GB2 continuous. During your turn, all the other units in your front row get +3K. The reason why it says other is because if he's in the front row, then he won't get the 3K, but if you put him in the back row, then he gives everything in your front row a +3K. Other skill is, when you call it due to an effect of a card, if you Vanguard an Altmile, this unit gets +3K until end of turn. Then if you have a face-up card in your G zone, you can discard a card. If you do, this unit gets boost until end of turn. So he's a 12K booster and gives 3K to all your front rows, and then you can move him up to attack afterwards. So super good card. I think he's one of the, he's a really good grade 2 for the Altmile deck, and you know, I stressed this point already in the deck preview, so definitely a very good card. Next up we have Security Knight Regius. So he's just, you know, the kind of perfect guard that can guard any unit, but his GB2 Brave skill is, when you guard with him, if your Vanguard is an Altmile in its name, you can soul charge 1. Then if the number of cards in your hand is 1 or less, you can choose one of your units that is being attacked, and it cannot be hit until end of that battle. So the reason why that's good is, you guard with it, like you put in the guarding circle, you soul charge 1, and then if you have 1 or less, you don't have to discard for the perfect guard. So it's basically a just free perfect guard that you don't have to discard for it, which is pretty nice. Next, another piece of Alfred support in Emit Hammer Dragon. This one I'm not that happy with, but let's go over it regardless. Once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1. If a unit was called this turn due to an effect of your Vanguard with Alfred in its name, search your deck for up to one grade 1 or greater card, call it to another rearguard circle in the same column as this unit, and shuffle your deck. It's nice because you pay the soul for the call, so that's like, it doesn't cost counterblast, which is nice. Usually it would, but it's a bit restrictive because it has to be called by the Alfred's ability. So if it's the new Alfred, basically this unit has to be on the field before you even ride the Alfred. But if you use the Legion Alfred, then you know you're kind of fine. You can call this first and then use the Legion Alfred. So kind of an okay card, but you know, he doesn't have Swordsman of Light or Blaster in his name, so you can't search him out either with the new Alfred. So yeah, a bit meh. However, Swordsman of Light Picos or Pitos does have the Swordsman of Light name. So his skill is a GB1 when your other unit is placed on rearguard circle due to the effect of your card. If your Vanguard is an Alfred, this unit gets plus 5k until end of turn. So just a bit of a buff. It's not too super amazing, but his next ability is nice. In the deck, he has a skill that if your Vanguard is an Alfred, he gets -1 grade. So basically it's a grade 2. So that kind of adds the whole different grades thing of the new Alfred. So it's quite alright. Next we have Mace of Pledge Lasius or Iasius. I think it's Iasius. He has a GB2 Brave skill. When you call him, he gets plus 6k. So he's a 16k attacker, but only for one turn. Other skill is a Brave. When you call him, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do until end of turn, he gets a skill that at the end of your turn, you can return him to your hand. So essentially, it's just going to be 16k every turn, but to call him back to your roll, to take him back to your hand, you're going to have to Soul Blast 1 each and every time. Next we have, I'm going to kind of get down these both of these cards immediately. So we have Energetic Knight Romus and Acute Knight Paris, and if you notice, their arts actually match up, so that's very cool. So let's go over Paris first because I feel she's the better card. So in the hand, she has a skill that when you're paying the cost for Stride, if your Vanguard is an Alfred, she gets grade +1 in your hand, so she's a grade 2. And another skill is when she's discarded from hand for the cost of Stride, if you have a Romus on your rearguard circle, you call this card to rearguard circle, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 3k. So it's kind of like the new Blau that's going to be coming up. So basically just like a Stride fodder that can call itself but has a condition. Romus' skill isn't that good. He has a GB1 when he's called from deck. If you have a Alfred Vanguard, this unit gets plus 5k until end of turn, so 14k off the bat. And then when he attacks, if you have a Paris on your rearguard circle, he gets another plus 2k until the end of that battle, so there's your 16k attacker. But I like that their arts match up. Next we have a reprint of Starlight Violinist, so it's not that used of a card, but still used in some decks, but not that much. If you don't know him, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 when he is ridden or cold. If you do, you search your deck for a grade 2 card not named Starlight Violinist, call to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. So there's a bit of a better card out there that is just for the Brave deck, while this one is kind of open to everything. So there's that. Next, we have Knight of Battle Preparation Porex. So he has a Brave. When he's called due to the effect of your card, if you have a Vanguard with Altmile in its name, this unit gets plus 5k until end of turn. So just a 12k attacker booster, doesn't cost anything, so that's nice. But overall the deck is a bit too restrictive in order to use that. Next we have Scramble Griffin. GB1 Brave on rearguard circle. When your Vanguard is attacked, you can put him into the soul. If you do, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets plus 10k until the end of that battle. It's not until end of turn, but just until the end of that battle. So it's a bit of a defensive move, but it's on a grade 2, so it's okay, it could be a tech. Next we have Knight of Cast, and I really like her art. She looks a bit like Jita from or Digita from Grand Blue Fantasy. So her skill is, sadly she's an AK, so that's like the saddest part of her, but her skill is GB1 Brave. When this unit is called during your turn, choose one of your other units with the Brave ability in the same column as this unit and increase its power by this unit's power until end of turn. So if it was 9k it would be nicer because then, you know, you add on a 9k instead of an 8k, but at least she stays on the field, but it's only when she's called, so you know, she could have some way to bounce herself, but you know, I really like her art, so she gets a pass in that regard. Next we have another reprint in Hope Song Angel, so it's the same as Starlight Violinist but just restricted to Brave, so there's that. And next we have Sage of Innovation Liberon. So when this unit is called, if you have a Vanguard with Alfred in its name, you can rest it. If you do, choose 2 of your units and get plus 4k until end of turn. So it is very good in the sense that it does give the 4ks. Sadly it's only when it's called, which is what I don't like about it, but like the art is also nice, but the card could be used in Alfred, but I haven't seen any Alfred deck list, so I'm not sure if it actually is. Next we have Tamami. Once per turn, act GB1, combust 1, choose one of your rearguards with a brave ability, and it gets boost until end of turn. So you can kind of put this on the new grade 2 that like only gets boost for 1 turn, but sadly it's not that great because, you know, it's just like, it's 6k, which is a bit sad, and it does cost combust to give that boost unit, boost to that unit, so it's not super great. Next we have Rheingold, so another starter. It's an act. Put this unit into your soul. If you have a Vanguard with Alfred in its name, choose up to 3 units in your party and get plus 3k until end of turn. Actually a pretty nice starter. It's kind of like the Jewel Knight starter, except it gives plus 3k to 3 units instead of 2, so it is actually a pretty alright starter. I mean, Royal Paladin has better things, but I think, you know, in general, it's actually a pretty nice starter. Next we have Marubaru. Also a starter, GB1 Brave. For each of your other rearguards with a Brave ability, this unit gets plus 3k. So it can kind of go up in power, but it doesn't do much apart from that. Next, Alfred got a critical trigger, which is a really nice card as well. He has a skill when your grade 3 Vanguard with Alfred in his card name attacks, so only grade 3, nothing else. It doesn't work with strides. You can put him into your soul. If you do, you counter charge too. So there's a little bit of counter charging for the Alfred deck. So it's an alright crit. I think it's actually quite fine. Next, some more reprints. We have Encourage Angel. When she's placed on Rearguard Circle, if you have GB1, choose 2 of your other units, and you may have those units get plus 2k until end of turn. If you do, return this unit to your deck and shuffle your deck. So there's that. Next is Laurel Knight Cecilius, or Cecilus. He's just the Stride Fighter / Altmile Searcher. Next we have Holy Knight Guardian, so she's just the G perfect card for Royal Paladin, and I really like her updated art. I think she's just generally just beautiful. And finally we have Bringer of Dreams Belenas, so this is the special critical trigger for Altmile. So once again, just the same stuff as before, but it's nice to have the triple rare foil pattern. And that's it for the Royal Paladin support. And finally we're on to Neo Nectar, and this also got a trial deck, so we're going to go over that first. The first card, which is the Stride, which is Flower Princess of Faith, Celine. And it's not Celine Dion. Skill is, when you ride her, you can combust 1. If you do, you choose up to 1 card from your hand, call it to Rearguard Circle, and that unit gets plus 5k until end of turn. If the called unit has the Bloom ability, you can counter charge 1 and soul charge 1. So it's basically, you're not paying the counterblast if you call a Bloom, and you're just getting a plus 5k and a soul charge from it. So she's not super great because you have much better targets for a first Stride, but you know, for trial deck Stride she's alright. But unlike the Royal Paladin one, I don't think she will get a use ever, which is a bit sad. Next we have Osmanthus Maiden Anelma, and this card is actually pretty much like the good card of the trial deck. So her skill is a Bloom GB1. When your other unit with the same card name as this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, choose up to 3 of your units, they get plus 2k until end of turn. And if you have a Vanguard with Ranunculus in its card name, this unit gets boost until end of turn. So I think this card is actually quite nice because of that little boost addition. So pretty interesting card, and does help for the whole power addition thing. So it's overall a pretty nice card. Next we have Irrigating Maiden Ramona. Her skill is a continuous. During your turn on Rearguard Circle, if the number of your other units with the Bloom ability is 2 or more, she gets plus 2k, and when this unit attack hits a Vanguard, you can combust 1. If you do, look at 5 cards on the top of your deck, search for up to 1 card with the Bloom ability from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. So, not super good, but I thought I would mention it regardless, just because, you know, it's kind of, it's like a notable card from the trial deck, and it also doesn't have GB1, so that's the nice part of it. Next we have a Ravishing Maiden Penelope. She has Bloom, and not on GB1. When your other unit with the same card name as this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, you Soul Blast 1. If you do, choose up to 3 of your rearguards. They get, until end of turn, they get plus 2k. And the GB1 skill, when this unit boosts a unit with a Bloom ability, this unit gets plus 2k until end of that battle. So, pretty, it's an alright card, just because it starts off without GB1, but, you know, she gives 3 rearguards plus 2k without GB1, so that's the nice part, but then, you know, the GB1 unlocks another part of the plus 2ks, so, you know, it's an alright card. Next is Crested Ibis Color Valkyrie Nelly. Her skill isn't too great, but her art is quite nice, so she's like an honorable mention. She has a continuous during your turn. This unit gets plus 1k for each of your other Crested Ibis Color Valkyrie Nellies on Rearguard Circle. So she's kind of a good trial deck card, so it's good for starting, but overall, like, you wouldn't see her in a final competitive build. Next up we have the starter, Augury Maiden Ida. She's actually better. So she has an Act GB1. You can almost one put into your soul, choose a card from your drop zone, put it on the bottom of your deck, and if the card has the bloom ability, draw a card. Nice card. I think, you know, it's nice that you have the whole recyclability thing going on, but there are better starters for Asha in the end, so there's that. Other skill is rest. Well, on act you can rest her, choose 2 of your units at the end of the turn. Those units will be regarded as having each other's card names, so kind of interesting. You can pass on card names and that kind of thing, so kind of, I don't know, it is interesting. So definitely a nice little way to use the skill, and obviously you can use the second skill first before using the first one, just like with the Royal Paladin one. And finally there's also the draw trigger Monkey Paw Dragon. You can put him into the soul. If you do, you choose one of your units and give it plus 3k. So same as the Royal Paladin trial deck. Now that we get onto the set, let's go over the GR and SGR of the set as well, which is Flower Princess of Beautiful Winter Inverno. So her skill, well, she has 2 skills, first one of which is an act once per turn. Use Soul Blast 1 and choose up to 5 normal units in total from your rearguard circle and drop zone, return them to your deck and shuffle your deck. If you return 5 cards, countercharge 1, soul charge 1. So the soul blast cost kind of gets balanced out. So you do have to return normal units, but it is still fine because it prevents from decking out, and it's also nice because you can, it's not just restricted to, you know, from rearguard circle, you can also do it from drop zone, so it's definitely very nice. Second skill is a GB2. When you call a unit on rearguard circle, you can combust 1 and discard a card from hand. If you do, you choose one of your units with the bloom ability, search your deck for up to 2 cards with the same card name as that unit, reveal them, put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. So it's not once per turn, so you can keep reusing it, but don't forget that it does cost the discard, but the amount of cards you gain compared to the cards you lost are, you know, you are still making an increase, so it is a pretty nice stride, and I think the art is quite nice, and so is the SGR for this one as well. Next up, we have the biggest money card of the set. This card was, I'm very surprised, in Europe at least, this card was cheaper than in Japan, because in Japan it kicked off, like, it kicked into 5,000 yen immediately, I believe, while in Europe it just kind of sat around 40, I believe, and now it might be dropping a little bit, but I'm not too sure, but I am surprised that it's just a little bit cheaper. So, her skills, the first one of which is a Bloom GB2. When your other unit with the same card name as this unit is placed on rearguard circle, you countercharge 1, soul charge 1. So you're always getting back that little resource. Her other skill is, at the end of each turn, choose a card from your hand and you may call it to rearguard circle. This is cool because at the end of your opponent's turn, you can call something. After they've done everything, you call something, and then you already have a copy target for your next stride and everything like that, so it's very, very cool. Her other skill is, when you stride on top of her, you can combust 1, soul blast 1. If you do, you choose one of your rear guards, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name as that unit, call it to your rearguard circle, shuffle your deck, and the unit called with this effect gets boost until end of turn. Super, super, super good card, because basically, like, at the end of each turn you get calls, so you, but like, essentially to work with the last skill, you call something at the end of your opponent's turn, and then whatever you called, you copy when you stride, and you, whatever you copied also, you know, gets boost. So really, really cool card, and I think she does deserve the price tag, but you know, half of her price tag does come from the fact that she's a waifu card. But good card, very expensive, but she is a good card. Next triple rare from Neo Nectar is Tenacious Maiden Noelle. So she has an Act GB2. Choose a card from your hand and discard it. If you have a Vanguard with Ranunculus in its card name, until end of turn this unit gets the continuous skill. This unit can attack a Vanguard from the back row. So, back row attacker, but on GB2, and you have to discard a card. So that is the downside, but it is the cost, so you don't have to pay Counterblast or Soul Blast, so that is quite nice. Next is the Bloom ability. When your other unit with the same card name as this unit is placed on rearguard circle, all of your units in the same column as this unit get plus 4 until end of turn. That second ability is not on GB1 or anything, so you can actually have some pretty interesting pressure going on from very early on before you even stride. So overall, quite interesting card. Moving on to the double rares, and the reason why I put Neo Nectar in the first place is because of a certain archetype that I don't play, but I really enjoy seeing it being played, and its aesthetic in general is Musketeers. So we're going to be starting off with Rebellum Lily Splendorous Musketeer Mira, or Myra. She has an act once per turn GB2. You Soul Blast 1 and choose a face down card with Musketeer in its name from your G zone and turn it face up. If you have a hard card with Musketeer in its name, until end of turn, this unit gets, when your unit with Musketeer in its card name is placed on rearguard circle, For each of your rearguards with the Musketeer in its card name, that the unit that was placed gets +2 cancel end of turn. So basically, it has to flip up Musketeers from G-Zone, so you don't have to just flip her face up. She's not the only Musketeer G unit. There's also Cecilia. And yes, you might be thinking, but then I have to play the Cecilia Grade 3. No, you don't, and I'll explain why you don't when we get into the next Musketeer card. But overall, this card is really, really nice, and I think it does push Musketeers quite well. And, you know, it's just a huge power buff. So, like, Musketeers were always making huge, easy advantage, like super easy advantage, but they weren't making good numbers. So this really helps make good numbers, so it's basically the perfect stride for Musketeers. And the other Musketeer doubler is White Clover Musketeer Miereta, or Rita. Her skill is, first off, a GB1. At the end of your turn, choose up to 2 normal units with Musketeer in their card names from your drop zone and put them on the bottom of your deck in any order. So after your stride goes back to the G zone, you can use this ability, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm pretty confident in saying that. And her second skill is, so this is where Cecilia comes in handy, when your G unit with Musketeer in its original card name strides during your turn, choose one of your Vanguards and until end of turn it gets the skill, act once per turn, caliber +1 and retire one of your Musketeer rearguards. Look at 4 cards from the top of your deck, search up to 2 cards with Musketeer in their card names from among them, call them to separate rearguard circles and put the rest into your drop zone. So, why do you play Cecilia? Because you can stride Cecilia on top of her. Yes, Cecilia will not have her effects, but Miereta gives her this ability to basically sack 1 to call 2, which is very nice, especially because you can't use Mira or Myra immediately because she's GB2. So, just cool, very, very, very cool card. So I think, you know, it's worth to play like 1 or 2 Cecilias, but I think the reason should be, I hope I made the reason obvious enough why you would play at least 1 Cecilia in your G-Zone. So Miereta is a very good card because, you know, converts 1 card into 2, and the end of turn skill is also very nice, so huge help for Musketeers. And now you just play Vera as your backup grade 3 for the cool Legion game-winning turn. Next up we have the Ranunculus G-Guard, which is Passiflora Flower Princess Marlena. Her skill is when you guard with her, you choose one of your units. If you have 2 or more units with Ranunculus in its card names, or 4 or more units with the same card name as the chosen unit, this unit gets plus 15k shield until the end of that battle. So she's just a 30k shield, and she has one, like, you have to meet one of 2 conditions, so you don't have to meet both. So very flexible and a very nice G-Guard. Next up we have Flower Keeper Dragon, so this is the new Perfect Guard. When you guard with it, you choose one of your units that's being attacked and it cannot be hit until the end of that battle. Obviously you have to discard a card, so you discard anything. Then, if the unit chosen with this effect is a unit with Ranunculus in its card name, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, search for up to 1 card with the same card name as your Vanguard or Rearguard from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So, when you Perfect Guard it, if you're Perfect Guarding a Ranunculus, then you basically, hopefully, get a card in hand. So, pretty interesting. Because as top 5, normally you will if your field is pretty full, and especially if your field is diverse, which is a bit of a counterintuitive thing for Asha, but you know, it's interesting. Next is a reprint of Maiden of Flower Pistol. This used to be played before the new Asha came out, so her ability is a Vanguard and Rearguard GB1. When your other unit is placed in Rearguard Circle, this unit is also regarded as a unit with the same card name as that unit until the end of turn. So, reprint, she used to be a promo. Next is a not so good Musketeer and Lycianthus Musketeer Lorraine. Skill is an act on Vanguard Circle GB1. Count +1, choose one of your units with Musketeer in its card name, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, search for up to 1 card with the same card name as that unit from among them, call it to Vanguard Circle and shuffle your deck. So that part of the ability is okay, but you know, you look at top 7 for a copy, so it's kind of trying to be Asha, honestly, but you know, I guess it'll pass. The other skill is a bit, when its attack hits a Vanguard on Rearguard Circle, you can Soul Blast 1 Musketeer and retire this unit. If you do, countercharge 1 and choose one of your other units with Musketeer in its name, and it gets +5 cancel on every turn. So, doesn't do too much for the deck, I feel, so not too great. Next is Sunshine Maiden Paula. She has a Bloom GB1 on Rearguard Circle. When your other unit with the same card name as this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, until end of turn, this unit gets the skill. When this unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Ranunculus in its card name, this unit gets +10k until end of that battle. This card may look really, really cool because, you know, whoa, 10k, but considering how like many tens of thousands the Ranunculus deck can put on each Rearguard, it's not all that amazing. Next is a really good Musketeer rare, which is Prunus Cerulata Musketeer Tessa. So she's kind of the early game, like she generates the early game for Musketeers. She has a Vanguard and Rearguard skill. When your other unit with Musketeer in its card name is placed on Rearguard circle, if you have 3 or more other units with Musketeer in their card names, this unit gets plus 2k until end of turn. Then if you have a face-up card with Musketeer in its card name in your G-Zone, the unit that was placed gets plus 4k until end of that turn. So, cool, because this works every time a Musketeer is called, right? So when it's called and you have 3 or more Musketeers, then it gets plus 2k, so it's just going plus 2, plus 2, plus 2 for each time you call, so you can go really ham in, you know, early game, just to kind of swing for huge power, especially if 3 of these in the front row is going to be hitting for quite a lot. So I think it's a pretty strong grade 2, and it's both good in early and in late game, so very good grade 2 in my opinion. Next is an alternate R reprint of Pansy Musketeer Sylvia. So she's a staple in every Musketeer deck we have 4 of. She's a 7k grade 2, but that doesn't stop her from being amazing. When you ride her or call her, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a Neo Nectar with Musketeer in its card name, call it to Rearguard circle, and if it's not, you just shuffle your deck. So, super good card, staple in every Musketeer deck, so nothing much to talk about here, it's also a reprint. But next is a new Musketeer card, which is Amaryllis Musketeer Tatiana. Her skill is a GB1 on Rearguard circle. At the beginning of your right phase, if your Vanguard is a Musketeer in its card name, you can retire her. If you do until end of turn, if you would stride a unit with Musketeer in its name, you can stride without paying the cost the next time you stride. So it is on GB1, so you can't use this for your first stride because you don't have, you know, when you would use this for first stride, you wouldn't have GB1 by then, so you just can't use it. So essentially, this is like good for second stride onwards, but still a good card, and pretty much all Musketeer decks do play it. Next is Faith Maiden Odette. She has 2 skills, the first one of which is on Rearguard circle. When your other unit with the same card name as this unit is placed on Rearguard circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, choose up to 2 of your units and they get plus 4 until end of turn. So it does, you know, keep looping every time you call something with the same name, so it does give the 4k to 2 other units, so that part of the skill is quite nice. Other skills are GB1. At the beginning of your main phase, if your Vanguards are Ranunculus, you can choose a normal unit from your drop zone and put it in the bottom of your deck. If you do, return this unit to your hand. So you can, if you have several of them on the field, you can do that at the end, you know, at the beginning of your main phase for each of them. So you get stuff back to your deck, and you know, you can reactivate her skill again. So I do think she's quite a nice card. Next is another reprint, Maiden of Sweet Berry. So this is one of the like cost 0 cards, so GB1 and act pay nothing. Choose up to 1 of your units not named Maiden of Sweet Berry, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same name as that unit, and return this, call that unit to Rearguard circle and return this unit to your deck and shuffle your deck. So she's a reprint, not too much to say. Next reprint is Green Shot Elf. Her skill is, if you didn't watch the set breakdown that she comes from, is a Bloom on Rearguard circle GB1. When your other Green Shot Elf is placed on Rearguard circle, you choose up to 5 of your Green Shot Elves on Rearguard circles, and at the end of turn, they get plus 2k and boost. So, good card, but she is a reprint. Next is a Musketeer that was hyped up a lot, but ended up being really bad in Rindo Gentian Musketeer Antero. Skill is on Vanguard and Rearguard circle. When this unit's attack hits, if you have another Rearguard with the same name as this unit, you can combat 1, draw a card. This is like a Musketeer that's trying to roleplay Asha, so I don't know, it's really quite bad, so it's a bit sad, but it is a fairly bad card. Next is Maiden Dancing in the Wind Françoise. Her skill is an act once per turn. You soul blast 1, and then you choose 1 of your units, and this unit is also regarded as a unit with the same card name as that unit until end of turn. So just name copying, so nothing too amazing, but she is not on GB1, so there is that as a bonus. Next is another starter, Maiden of Delphinium, so this is good for the Maiden of deck. She's GB1 on Rearguard circle. At the beginning of your main phase, choose 1 of your other units, and this unit is also regarded as a unit with the same card name as that unit until end of turn, so it's just name copying, but for the Maiden of deck. Next is a starter for Musketeer, and a good one, Baby Blue Eyes Musketeer Malin. So it's not quite Blue Eyes White Dragon, but you know, it's halfway there. So it's a starter and has an act Cannon Blast 1 Musketeer, and put this unit to your soul. You look at top 4 cards of your deck, search for up to 1 Musketeer and its card name from among them, call it to Rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. If you have another unit with the same card name as the unit called with this effect, the called unit gets plus 3k until end of turn. So it's cool because it's not a GB1, so again it helps with the Tessa plays. So really good starter, and this is basically the starter that all the Musketeer players are running now. Next is a reprint of Watering Elf, so she's a stand trigger with an act, put into the soul, and choose a Neo Nectar and give it plus 3k. Not sure why she was reprinted, but you know, the art is cute now, so that's fine. Next is a reprint of Valkyrie of Reclamation Padmini, so she's a Stridefighter and Ranunculus Vanguard Searcher, but I think this art is also cuter. And then Maiden of Passionflower, which is the G Perfect Guard for Neo Nectar, also got reprinted. And finally, Flower Garden Maiden Millis, which is the Ranunculus Crit, also got reprinted. So that's pretty much it for this set, so thank you very much for tuning in. And you know, I don't play any of these decks, so I won't be doing deck profiles on either, but I did do a deck preview of the Altmile deck, and I might be doing a deck preview of something else in this set, but I'm not too sure yet. It depends on my time management. But you know, I am, from the cards we talked about, I am excited about the Altmile stuff, and especially the Musketeer stuff. My teammate does play them, so possibly you'll get a video, maybe a fight video for this deck, but we'll see, you know, how time management goes once again. But overall, I hope you did enjoy this set breakdown. It did end up being quite long, but there are quite a lot of interesting cards to talk about. But you know, the Trinity Dragon set breakdown might just be a good while longer than that, because I do have quite a bit of depth to go into with the Dimension Police cards. So that's pretty much it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.